My paternity test results came back negative, but my wife still insisted that she didn't cheat, so we did another test, and this one revealed a very disturbing truth. From the day my daughter Ava was born, she looked nothing like me. As her hair started growing and some of the early stages of her features came to light, I started paying more attention, and noticed that she had her mother's hair, and I could see her mother's resemblance in her facial structures, but none of mine. This drove me crazy on the inside, so I got a paternity test done behind my wife's back. I was in my car when I opened the results, and as soon as I saw I was not the father, I started driving towards the highest bridge I knew. I was running on so much emotion that in that moment, I genuinely contemplated stopping at the bridge, getting out my car, and leaping off the bed, leaving everything behind. What was the point of it all? Those were my thoughts in that moment. Luckily, I managed to rationalize the situation in my head, and thankfully, I realized that belly flopping off the highest effing bridge I could find is not the answer. I drove home with tears in my eyes, in disbelief that my wife could ever betray me like that. My wife had been everything to me, and besides that one stupid girl's holiday she went on around the time she got pregnant, she had been the best girlfriend ever. One afternoon, while she was out shopping and Ava was napping, I found myself staring at our wedding photo on the mantle. We looked so happy, so in love. I tried so hard to convince myself my wife Jessica loved me, and that she would never cheat, that the test was wrong. But that was naive and foolish thinking on my end. My need for answers grew stronger with each passing day, until finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront Jessica, to get the truth, and make sense of this. One night after we put Ava to sleep, I sat Jessica down. At first, Jessica laughed, thinking it was a joke after I hit her with the question of whether or not she slept with anyone else. Her laughter was light, but it faded quickly when she saw the seriousness in my eyes. Her expression shifted from amusement to confusion as she realized I wasn't joking. She asked me what on earth made me think that she was cheating. I explained that Ava looked a lot like her but had none of my features. I confessed that I had taken a paternity test behind her back and that the results confirmed my worst fears. Ava wasn't my daughter. Jessica's face twisted with confusion. Her eyes searched mine, trying to find some hint that I was lying or mistaken. She stuttered, genuinely confused, insisting that she had never cheated. The more she insisted on her innocence, the harder it became for me to believe her. My doubts were already here, and every word she spoke felt like an attempt to cover up her betrayal. I pressed her, demanding that she admit to sleeping with someone else at some point. I told her to stop pretending, to stop acting like she was too good for me. She already knew my insecurities. I knew she probably cheated since I had gained weight, and she was always considered the more attractive partner. She had to think that she deserved someone better. Her eyes filled with a mix of anger and hurt. Her face flushed as she tried to make sense of my accusations. She insisted again and again that she hadn't cheated, but I just couldn't accept her words as the truth. As I kept pushing her, Jessica's frustration finally exploded. Her voice got louder and angrier. She was really mad that I had taken the test without telling her. Her anger and hurt grew as she defended herself, her, loyalty, and our relationship. She felt hurt that I doubted her and let my own worries mess up our relationship. She told me how angry and sad that I had let my insecurities cause her so much pain. She was furious that I had gone behind her back and taken the test without telling her, and this reaction seemed like a confirmation of my suspicions. If she was so angry, didn't that mean she had something to hide? I thought. Her outburst felt like proof that she was guilty, that my fears were justified. My mind latched onto this idea. The room felt tense and heavy. This had left us both emotionally drained and confused. The trust we once had felt broken, replaced by a big gap of doubt and misunderstanding that neither of us knew how to fix. The next morning, the house felt colder, filled with an uncomfortable silence. The confrontation from the night before replayed in my mind. Jessica's explosive reaction seemed like undeniable proof that she had cheated. As I got dressed, I felt a grim acceptance settle over me. This marriage couldn't continue on the foundation of lies and betrayal. I needed to see a divorce lawyer. With my keys in hand, I headed toward the door, my mind made up. Just as I reached for the doorknob, she stopped me. I turned around to see her standing there, looking both determined and desperate. For a moment, I thought she was about to confess, to finally admit to the affair that had shattered my trust. But instead, Jessica asked me to sit down. She swore on her dear mother's grave that she had not cheated. She swore that her trip to Miami just before her pregnancy was a coincidence, and that she understands the logical reasoning behind my assumptions, but that truly nothing had happened. The depth of her sincerity made me pause. Jessica insisted that we needed to do another paternity test because she was convinced that Ava had to be mine. She spoke with such conviction that it was impossible to ignore. As I listened to her, a flicker of doubt crept into my mind. What if there was another explanation? What if my accusations were wrong? Despite the turmoil inside me, I found myself agreeing to one more test, hoping that it might finally provide the clarity we both so desperately needed. We waited for the results of the second paternity test. The tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. When the results finally came in, they once again confirmed my worst fears. Ava wasn't my daughter. Jessica's reaction this time was completely different. Instead of anger directed at me, it was a raw, confused fury. She couldn't understand how this was possible. She demanded answers that I couldn't provide. Then out of nowhere, she insisted on taking a maternity test herself. Her suggestion left me baffled. What was she trying to prove? Jessica's eyes were fierce, as she swore that if Ava wasn't mine, then she couldn't be hers either. Her determination was unshakable, and despite my confusion, I agreed to go along with it. The wait for the maternity test results felt never-ending. When they finally arrived, the outcome was more shocking than anything I could have imagined. The test revealed that Ava wasn't Jessica's daughter either. Jessica had been right all along. She hadn't cheated. But this revelation opened up a new, horrifying question. If Ava wasn't ours, then whose child was she? We both went to the hospital, demanding an explanation. After a lot of drama and back-and-forth discussions with the hospital staff, the truth finally emerged. The hospital had made a terrible mistake at birth and given us the wrong baby. Ava, the child we had loved and cared for, was not ours. This was devastating. We were heartbroken and angry, coming to terms with the reality that our real child had been with another family all this time. This horrific mix-up had turned our lives upside down. We initiated a legal battle against the hospital. We knew that the case would be complex and emotionally draining, with hearings and legal proceedings stretching out before us.